Turkey, where history meets mystery. A virtual tour with Jim Willis and Dr. Mickey Pistorius. In 1963, so the story goes, a man living in Cappadocia, while renovating his house, excavated some large stones from his basement. Behind them, he found an ancient tunnel that led to more tunnels, and then more tunnels, and more after that. When he reported his find and the experts descended, they discovered a complex underground city that once was home to some 20,000 people, their livestock, wine and oil presses, storage cellars, and chapels. A large 180-foot ventilation shaft ensured fresh air. Evidence suggests that the city, long after its construction, might have later been used by Christians who built a religious school and a church. They named the complex after the city that had been built over it on the surface. Derinkuyu. Derinkuyu is only one of several underground cities, some only recently discovered, that are spread out over Cappadocia in Turkey. Who built them? And why? And when? It seems as though Cappadocia in central Turkey was once home to an entire underground civilization. At least 3.5 miles of tunnels and chambers hide churches, escape galleries, and dwelling places that were constructed at least 5,000 years ago, maybe more. Archaeologists are calling it the largest underground civilization in the world. And it was probably built even before the Giza pyramids. How did they ever do it? People lived their lives and died in these caverns. No one knows why. But that may not even be the most intriguing question. The underground caves of Cappadocia weren't discovered until 2014. What else remains to be found? Speculation about the area has become quite popular. Eric von Daniken, for instance, was quick to claim that the underground complex of Derinkuyu was built in ancient times as a refuge from fallout that originated in a war between two alien factions who were engaged in what amounted to nuclear warfare in the skies over planet Earth. Traditional archaeologists had their doubts. They claimed it was built by Indo-European Phrygians about 2,800 years ago, who later died out during the Roman era. Those who are enchanted by the mystery remain unimpressed by all the prevailing theories about when and why these cities were constructed. Their arguments run along these lines. It takes a long time to excavate what amounts to a 6-story complex, even in soft limestone. And there's no evidence so far discovered that reveals where the builders piled the refuse they dug out. If they were trying to establish a refuge because of an imminent threat from either ancient aliens or Muslims, they simply did not have the time to prepare such a place and hide the detritus left from digging. But why would a civilization seek to hide from enemies underground in the first place? Surely 20,000 people would have left evidence of coming and going. Air shafts and chimney holes would have made it easy for an enemy to simply block the exits and wait for the inhabitants to stick their heads up to see what was going on. As for ancient aliens, any such theory is bound to be ridiculed by scoffers, but where is the evidence to suggest intergalactic warfare was carried out on the surface of planet Earth? In other words, when it comes to deciphering the mysterious caverns and tunnels of Derinkuyu and the underground cities of Cappadocia, the answers are still up for grabs. Why were they built? No one knows for sure. When were they built? No one knows for sure. Who built them? No one knows for sure. What happened to the inhabitants? No one knows for sure. Someone built them a long time ago, perhaps farther back in time than modern archaeologists are willing to admit. The original builders must have had a compelling reason to pull off such an audacious feat. But then they became lost to history, their presence completely forgotten, and no one knows why. Do the answers to these questions lie deeper in history than most researchers are willing to dig? Does the reason to go underground become apparent if one is willing to place the original construction of the labyrinth back to a time shortly after the Younger Dryas Ice Age? It now appears that the Younger Dryas Ice Age was brought about when a fiery comet broke down above the skies of Earth, many of the segments exploding within the atmosphere of the planet. The effect was thousands of times more devastating than any nuclear blast the Earth has ever witnessed. The heat alone would have melted vast amounts of ice. But the worst was yet to come. Almost unimaginable amounts of dust and soot would have been thrown into the upper atmosphere, blotting out the sun for months, if not years. Temperatures dropped almost overnight, plunging the Earth into what amounts to an ice age, the Younger Dryas, that lasted for some 1,500 years. And this event might have been repeated every year for the next 20 years, every time the Earth passed through the debris field of what is now called the Taurid meteor stream. Would that have been sufficient reason for people to decide to live underground, where they would have at least a modicum of protection should the devastation reoccur? They didn't have to rush. Whatever was going to happen probably was not going to occur during the next month or even the next year, as would have been the case if the purpose was to hide from an invading army. No, they would have had time. And there was no need to worry about a comet seeing where one exited one's underground home. There would have been no need for concealment of smoke from cooking fires. Besides that, the use of wineries implies the growing of grapes, something that can only be done on the surface. And although the underground complexes employed deep wells to provide water, there's no evidence of human waste removal systems. That, too, implies the need for surface disposal. Now, given the need to hunt and gather food, as well as renew the wood supply for fires, an enemy would quickly exploit such activity. A comet wouldn't care. Also, during an ice age, it's warmer beneath the surface than above it. This means, of course, that one has to move the dates for the beginning of the construction of Derinkuyu back to coincide with the last ice age, almost 12,000 years ago. All this is, of course, highly controversial, but it can lead to real breakthroughs if specialists can keep an open mind and not circle their wagons around one specific ideology. It is too soon in the process for that. There is a lot of data yet hidden beneath the rugged surface of Cappadocia in the mysterious underground city of Derinkuyu.